Jamie Hyneman, congratulations on another Emmy nomination for MythBusters. It's the 6th year in a row the show has been nominated. You're 11 years into the show's run now. Is that continued recognition for the show, especially gratifying?
Absolutely. We're thrilled to have yet another Emmy nomination. Hopefully this time we'll actually get one. It's been an amazing run. We're on our way to 12 years now, and we're still going strong. The production value has gotten better. The science has gotten better. Everything that we're doing seems to be working quite well for us, and we're thrilled.
When I talked to you and Adam last year, for your nomination last year, you mentioned that more categories to accommodate a wider range of reality TV at the Emmys might be preferable, and that actually happened this year. They split reality TV into structured and unstructured programs, with MythBusters in the structured category. Do you have any thoughts on that change? Is that something that it was on your mind during the nominations process?
Absolutely. It has always struck us that we were a little different than the bulk of the types of reality programming that are out there, and in particular the way that we're doing science and engineering, and it's not when we go up against your typical reality TV programming. I think it's a different kind of it's a different audience. It's a different. They have entirely different goals. We're not just about entertainment or whatever. There's a lot more depth, we'd like to think, in the thought-provoking nature of what we do. So we're hoping that this will make a difference for us.
Same competition from last year, including Antiques Roadshow, Shark Tank, Undercover Boss. Is that good company to be in, do you think?
Yes, I do. I mean, it's at least the field is narrower. We still feel like we're in a little bit different of a territory because our show is so science and engineering based. Antiques Roadshow, they've been at it for 11 years, so they're obviously doing something right, and these are all fairly well established programs. We think we're better though.
It seems to have been a good year for science on TV and at the Emmys, not just MythBusters, but shows like Cosmos and Through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman being recognized. In the last few years, does it feel like science has become cool in a way that it hasn't before?
Well, I certainly hope so, and I have to say those programs are, and we would like to count ourselves among them, are extraordinary. Neil deGrasse Tyson is a friend of ours, and we think really highly of him and what he's done. I think personally that thought-provoking science-based television is underappreciated, and I think it simply hasn't been done as much as we're starting to see it do now with programs like those two and ours. The fact that I mean, when you think about it, on the one hand, who wouldn't want to be presented with novel information that's thought-provoking when they're watching television? It seems like an obvious choice, and yet almost 12 years ago when we started doing the programming, it was like, yeah, right, you're going to have a hit TV series that's effectively a science documentary, and yet it's stood the test of time. So there's obviously a large audience out there, and we're all over the world that that likes to be presented with thought-provoking material.
MythBusters started back in 2003, and that was before Facebook, before Twitter. Now you, Adam, and the show are all pretty active on social media. Has that had a big impact on the show? You get feedback?
We think it has. It's the ratings on television seem to be sort of a moving target between DVRs and all the variety of ways that television programming ends up being watched. We've decided that it's appropriate for us to take our fate in our own hands, thanks to these kinds of media. We've also started to do things like the Watch With thing that we did, where we show ourselves live watching the premiere of an episode. Now, this was an attempt to bolster our ratings and have people feel like they're more able to interact with us. And the surprising thing that we found once we started doing that was that that we're being watched all over the world. Like, even when the programming isn't able to be seen in those countries. There's a massive viewing audience that is tuning in, watching us watch a premiere of our episode live. So it just goes to show that these kinds of new types of access to programming and so on, and interaction with live with the people that you've become fond of or fans of is can have a tremendous and very broad-reaching impact. So we're delighted with that, and we take social media very seriously. It's a regular part of our daily interaction on top of just shooting a television show.
Do you know what episode MythBusters is submitting for consideration this year for the Emmys?
It escapes me right at the moment. I'm sorry. I should have been better prepared. I thought it might have been a Star Wars episode.
When Star Wars was one of your biggest episodes of the season, was that a movie you and Adam had wanted to tackle for a while on the show?
Well, yes, Star Wars. It's obviously a kind of in the belly of the beast as far as popular culture and particular geek culture, which we seem to be front and center with. The difficulty with that type of thing, though, and science fiction in general, is that we have to have real things that we can test. So it's a little difficult when you're talking about lightsabers and Death Stars and so on. But we figured we got a good purchase on it, and it points out that one of the things that we do that is maybe not evident but is very important is that we can tackle just about anything, whether it's real or not, or whether in a lot of the stuff that we've done, from polishing a turd to making a balloon out of lead, are things that you don't need to know how to do necessarily. They're not going to it's not going to be helpful in your life to know directly how to do those things. But like with Star Wars, once you start to tease out elements in virtually any story, you find things that are tangents or things that you didn't expect that become the most important thing. And that's kind of I would say fundamental to science in general. A lot of the most important discoveries that have been made are not things that were being sought at the time. And so when we get into things like Star Wars, as silly or fantasy or science fiction as they may be, we can get real purchase on real things that are actually quite powerful and interesting.
Now, you tested for the Star Wars special swinging from a grappling hook on the Death Star, the Ewok log trap, and Luke Skywalker surviving in the body of a Tauntaun. As you mentioned, it can be difficult with a very fantasy or sci-fi based movie or show to come up with a myth that's really testable. Were those really the best found? Were there others that you could have tested that you didn't get a chance to?
Well, there are, and we're working on some of them now. Oh, hold on one second. I'm going to have to close my door. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem.
We were running a little late, and so I had some kids that are getting a tour of the shop. Yeah, we're about to start actually on another. Actually, we already have started. We've half finished another Star Wars episode, but I have to say it's difficult because you know it's something that we like to do because it is something people are interested in. But there are, like, how do you test a lightsaber, for example? You know, they don't exist. So we look for, you know, things like we did. One of the episodes that we had done quite a while ago was about whether we actually had been on the moon, because it was there was a conspiracy theory that we never got up there. So, you know, the only real way to test going to the moon or test whether we were there would be to go there ourselves and collect some of the Apollo hardware that was left there. But obviously that's a little bit more than what our budget would allow, and so we figure out a way of testing around the periphery to see whether we can get any kind of purchase on it. And again, this is one of those things where, you know, even if we can't get a direct purchase on some something like, you know, people would love to see what would happen, for example, with actual lightsabers if we were able to make those. But we're able to just by approaching those problems or those situations and trying to, you know, maybe tease out something along the periphery that we can actually get a real and tangible handle on, we end up coming across things that we would never get to in any other way, that, you know, are unexpected results, things that teach us, and that that, you know, even if they're not what we were looking for at the time, can be very important. And that's sort of the name of the game with what we do and why we're still here and maintaining a large audience after all these years, because it's about the process. It's about the adventure of trying to tackle something, whatever it is, and just like when you try to climb a mountain, you know, it's not about the view at the top. It's about the things that you'll see along the way and experience that you never had any idea even existed.
Now, you also tested some zombie myths last fall. You know, what was unique about that episode was that you got to, you know, you interacted with a lot of extras who you brought on board to play the zombie horde for the various myths. What was it like working with all those different people, you know, getting into character, you know, in zombie makeup?
We loved that. That was one of the more fun episodes that we've done, because, and these weren't like extras per se. These are people that really are super into being zombies. It's like what they do, and as a form of, I guess everybody's got to have a hobby, and you know, that particular one, seeing the lengths that these people were going into to become the zombies was just hysterical. When we showed up out there, and, you know, with like 100 of these people milling around and, you know, moaning and oozing and everything else, it's like, you know, what alternate reality did I just land in? And then and actually some of the physics that we were able to get into was quite strong. The solution of, you know, trying to deal with, and this is a classic example of these tangents that I'm talking about. When you think about, the amount of pressure 100 zombies can put against a gate if they're all pushing at once. That's something that's, real or not, with reference to zombies. It's something that can happen at say a football game or whatever, where you have a large number of people, and what can actually happen. And we figured out that solution with these plastic sewer pipes that we put around the bellies of our zombies so they couldn't actually hurt themselves, but we were able to replicate the same amount of pressure. And that's exactly the kind of adventure that we love to have, even taking something that is, that actually doesn't exist, and finding a really interesting and thought-provoking handle on on something that's going on with them.
Now, you often do myths that involve explosives, firearms, a lot of safety precautions, but you also did an episode last season that featuring myths that viewers actually could try at home, that were relatively safe and simple. Was that something fans had been eager for a while?
Oh yeah, and yes. I mean, one of the unique things about MythBusters is that we have such a wide demographic, little kids all the way to old people, both sexes, and so it's something that families in particular can watch together and appreciate equally. So, as a parent, the idea of finding something safe for them to have their kids try out and do that kind of experimentation is great. And so it unfortunately the bulk of the stuff that we do is either not practical or not safe for audiences to try it at home. But whenever we spot something, we always pull it out for that reason, because it's I think also one of the other things about the show and the way that we're so hands-on is that as opposed to a science show, for example, that just does demonstrations, we do actual experimentation, and that's a totally different thing, and people that are observing that react differently to it, because they're actually actively involved instead of passively involved, where they're just sitting there watching somebody kind of demonstrate some phenomenon. So this is also fundamental to science and the way that people learn things, is having being actually able to experiment and be active in the process rather than just passive bystander.
In the past year, sometimes the show, does experiments that have results that you're not expecting. What would you say was the most surprising result you've had on the show in the past season?
Oh, in this past season, well, I guess one of the things personally, I get involved in all of the technical stuff that goes on, and I was delighted. I guess the high point for me with the Star Wars episode, for example, was making the Tauntaun guts, which I figured out this, through trial and error, this way of dealing with this hot melt rubber that was water clear, that was just made the most beautiful intestinal tubes that I could fill with goo, and that process, those things were just fantastic. But then, unfortunately, after all this work and putting them together inside this sculpted tauntaun and everything, and getting it to, the problem was that getting it to the body temperature that we estimated the tauntaun would have required putting these guts in a warm water bath or a hot water bath, and this material, which was not water-based at all, somehow degraded from exposure to the hot water, and so these beautiful intestinal things that I'd created were ripping and tearing and basically it became one big mess, which was totally unexpected for me. But those failures are actually where we're personally delighted when they happen, because that means that we learned something. Also fundamental to science is that if you fail at something, you move ahead. If you don't fail, then you're just again demonstrating something, or you may pat yourself on the back for a job well done, but when you fail, you kind of have to ask why, and then you learn and you move ahead, which is what science is all about. And so I was delighted at that failure in that case.
New episodes of the show started airing this month, and you've already mentioned that you're working on more Star Wars myths. Are there any other? Is there anything else coming up that you're able to talk about, without giving too much away?
Oh, we've got. Let's see. There is a whole year worth of episodes that are in the hopper waiting to come out, and a lot of them are really good. We're currently just finishing episodes on the Simpsons, which we just saw the rough cut of, which it turned out really funny and really fantastic. We test things like what actually happens if you flush a cherry bomb down the toilet, and so there's a whole bunch of fun stuff like that that's coming up. We recently also finished an episode where we go up in the U-2 spy plane, which it requires is not a minor thing. It requires a full-on space suit, and to where because you're in space. They call that space equivalent. And it required a lot of training, and these planes are really something that I didn't know were that involved. It's very close to having to go into orbit.
Well, all that sounds extremely exciting. I want to wish you the best of luck on those and everything you're currently working on, and I'm hoping next month that you can confirm the myth of MythBusters winning an Emmy.
We hope so too. Thank you for having me.
All right, no problem. Have a good day.
You too.